Welcome to the Cuisin Inn. I'm your host, Scott Verdi. We're here on Tuesday night live. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to this video and all of our series, especially when you want to see great talent like Christian from Breaking Branches Pictures. Welcome back to the Spotlight series.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Give us a little background of yourself for those who haven't seen you before.
So I'm a filmmaker. I've done both documentaries and narrative films, and for the last 13 years, I've been working on a historical documentary called Slatersville, America's First Mill Village. And it's going to be an 11-episode series. The first 5 episodes aired as season 1 on Rhode Island PBS in the fall of 2022. And that means that 6 are left over. And so I was going to make those into season 2. Well, it took way too long to get 6, 7, and 8 done. And so I released those as season 2 very recently. And the good news is that our distribution is expanding. We're on Amazon. Season 1 is on Amazon for purchase. And
So Amazon to
Amazon
Prime.
Yes, Amazon Prime. You can get it there. But
Before we go further, give
Sure.
people a little overview of what season 1 is about. I mean, we all know Slater Mill, and we associate it with that, but kind of give them an overview of what the series really starts with.
okay, backing up. Season 1 the series overall is 250 years long, okay? And that's how it's kind of felt in the making of it anyway. It's like that long. But the first season starts with Samuel Slater and John Slater, his brother, coming from Belper, England. They set up the first industrialized mill in Pawtucket, Rhode Island in 1793, along with Moses Brown and William Almy. 10 years later, actually John comes over 10 years later, and they need an area where they're going to set up everything and control it. And that becomes Slatersville, which is based in North Smithfield. And so the series sort of follows more of the evolution of that mill village from its inception, the idea of it coming from England into the formation of it in northern Rhode Island, and through all of the levels of the Industrial Revolution, from the first to the second to the third generations throughout the 19th century. So that's episodes 1 through 5.
And how long did it take you to make that series?
Well, as I said, 13 years I've been working on it. So you can say 11 by the time the first season rolled around. And the reason for that is because the immense amount of research. We shot a ton of interviews. We scanned over 14,000 images from around the world. We've found 8mm films from the 30s and 40s that had never seen the light of day. And we found documents that were sitting in a drawer for 70 years that were personal letters from within the Slater family that nobody ever saw. Like no historians, nobody. So we had to scan all of those and organize them. And then we had to put all the puzzle pieces together with telling the story. Some things were published and some were not. And so a lot of stuff toward the beginning of this, especially the beginning of the 19th century, is a lot of Samuel Slater. Everybody knows father of the Industrial Revolution, all that. But very little of them knew about his brother. Very little of the public knew about the second generation of John and Ruth Slater and their children, what they created. And then there's the third generation, which comes along and either excels and continues in that tradition, or they make tremendous mistakes and they piss it all away. And so that's kind of what happened in the latter is what happened in the case of Slatersville. So it just takes a long time for all of that information to be assembled, organized, scanned, scripted, edited, all of it.
But I want to commend you on not just looking in the books, say, well, this is what it was, and I'm just going to take the story, and I'm going to put some fancy pictures with it, and you kind of do a voiceover, so you don't have to search on the web, or you don't have to go look at an encyclopedia like many docuseries do.
Yeah.
You found new stuff. You've talked to people that hadn't been spoken to, some that had, and you've put the human element onto a side of a documentary that really no one thought about that side of it. There was mills, there was industrials, then it all went away. That's
right.
Yeah, that's the ninth grader version of what happened here.
Yeah, that's well put. There is a human element in this. You're digging up the drama. You're digging up the emotional content. You're finding what makes a story dramatic. What relates to what can the audience connect with. The audience can connect with, even though it was 200 years ago, the idea of child labor. We couldn't imagine doing that now. But you put yourself in the oh my God sort of conversation about that,
Yeah.
and try to wonder what that was like. Temperance movement, dealing with slavery, the Civil War. I mean, the expansion of the mills, the massiveness of it, people getting sick from working in the mills. All of it is there, and you're finding all of that. And so this requires, at least just using Slatersville as the singular mill village to tell a larger story, it requires a very deep dive. And it requires working with a lot of consultants, mostly historians, that weigh in and, have been amazing to work with and make the project better.
What you can share a little bit of the feedback about when you're digging something up for a family member that is news to them from generations past or something that they didn't know had happened, great stories, trials, tribulations, drama that you...
Well, what I can say to that, mostly the first thing that comes to mind is that people only know either what they've been told or they know like a little smidgen of it. They often don't, and not historians, I mean the people like descendants who are related, or people who have other family members involved in other places. They know a portion, they know just their portion, but they don't know how it connects to what came before it, what came after it. They don't see it in the bigger picture. And because of that, oftentimes they don't think it's that important. A lot of people are like, oh, you won't be important. I'm sorry, you won't think this is important.
Right.
Right. And then they're stunned when we kind of line it up with something. And what happens sometimes is that people give you a little piece of something, and then they see what it means in the trajectory of the episode. They see what it means dramatically there. And they're like, oh my God, I had no idea what I had. So that happens too. Another thing that happened, I mentioned the documents that were sat in a drawer for 70 years that were untouched. The gentleman who gave us those couldn't have been more gracious, but he had a very different understanding of what his ancestors had done and how one or two of them had behaved. And then we had to kind of break it to him with other members of the family there, say like, no, it didn't exactly go that way. But thankfully he was open to it and loved what he saw at the end, which was a relief.
So season 1, you mentioned, is available on Amazon and multiple other places. So let's talk about that.
So season 1 is available on Amazon and Tubi currently.
And Tubi is one of those services that if you have a Fire Stick or it's on, I have Fios myself, so it's on there.
Yeah.
It's on a lot of the cable stations.
Tubi is a new free streaming service that you can get. You can register an account, or you can just see it without that. It does have ads. That's the only drawback, but I'm not complaining. I mean, it's great that it gets out there. Tubi is available in 4 countries, and it's currently playing in 3. The U.S., the UK, Canada, and Australia. I'm hoping it'll be in the UK soon.
Is that going to be a nice sell for them that we brought all this manufacturing over from England? Like, it's
I don't think it has anything to do with that.
No, but I mean, if you look at it from the English perspective,
Yeah.
That's our baby, the colony. And it's still thought of that way a little bit.
Right.
It'll be an interesting way of them to see our history from our perspective, but things that came from there. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, no, it is. And what's interesting is when you line up all the episodes, like there are 8 that are out there so far. So when you line all these up, you'll see how people come in and out of it and things are revisited along the way. Like there isn't one thing that's in every single episode, except maybe my voice. There's, because I narrated. But yeah, it's expansive. And so then when you get to the later episodes, which we're working on now, everything will come full circle in that final episode. It will all tie together and make sense. And so it's really pretty gigantic in that way. But go ahead.
15 years ago, with Christian sitting there thinking about this great idea and starting to put some notes on paper, did you ever think that you'd have a documentary about Rhode Island that's going to be seen in foreign lands?
I didn't
Other
know.
than by accident?
I think that I wanted to do a feature-length documentary. I knew it was going to be between an hour and a half and 2 hours. I didn't know I was going to be making a series, because by that point, it started in 2012, really. We started refilming, and I had actually made first attempts in 2004 and 5 to film, and some of that footage is in there. By the time, as this took so long to get through, documentary series became a thing on all these streaming services in a major way. I always joke about Tiger King having 7 hours.
Yeah.
Tiger King has 7 hours. We can give 11 plus hours to Slatersville, right?
Yeah.
That's 250 years of history. So that's kind of how I saw that. But it is, season 2 is only on Tubi currently. I think that's going to expand. And season 2 episodes 1, 2, and 3 are actually 6, 7, and 8, and I know that gets confusing. But
Kind of like the Star Wars number. He's just
yeah. I have a weird number system, but they can figure it out as they go. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. And right now we are completing episodes 9, 10, and 11, which will be season 3. And we have a lot of ideas, and we're kind of having to regroup a bit now, because I'm greatly relieved that only 3 episodes remain after all this time. But we're also historically filling in the gaps and making sure that we cover things to the best of our ability and go different places. It's called Slatersville, but it's not entirely in Slatersville. It's in locations throughout Rhode Island, in southern New England, the Carolinas, California, New Mexico, the UK, and other places that are being talked about now. So I think that it's a story that has its original base locally in a village, but it resonates universally with a lot of themes.
Well, if that village hadn't existed, the world would be a completely different place today.
Correct. Yeah. And what was the culture like around a mill? How did that village function? Every single episode is about how that particular period functioned. Okay, whatever the theme may be. So that's ultimately, David Macaulay is in our series. He's the author, illustrator. He pops up in the second episode, and he'll be back in later. But he has a book called The Way Things Work, and which is brilliant. But I always think that every single episode is in some way, shape, or form how it all worked.
So figure the season 3 would be available next year, 2025?
I'm hoping. It always depends on fundraising.
Yeah.
It depends on a number of factors coming into play. I think one of the reasons that 6, 7, and 8 took so long is because someone we were focusing on was in the final stages of life. So that was part of it. And the other part of it was we had to focus on the rioting that took place in Lincoln, Rhode Island in 1934, Lincoln Central Falls. And there was all this footage around that from Fox and Paramount that we needed to get. So there are many elements that, like I just said, we got to fill in the blanks historically. Because once you get into the episode, you know most of what's in that episode. But when you crack it open, it's like, oh man, now I have to get this, that, and the other thing. And so that's what happens too. But we do have a firm handle on it. We just got to make sure we do it right.
I know you have some information on the web about the series, so give us the web address so people can get a little more information.
Sure. The website for the series is firstmillvillage.com. FIRST spelled out, millvillage.com. You can follow us on Facebook at Slatersville, America's First Mill Village. And like I said, we're on Amazon, we're on Tubi, and you can check us out there. People are really, enjoying the series.
So, folks, if you're interested in Slatersville or think there is someone else, drop them a quick note. This gentleman, send him a link to this video. You got the higher level story. There's so much more. I've watched a lot of the episodes and can't wait to see the rest of it. But there's a lot there, and I really appreciate you making Rhode Island, really on the map for the Industrial Revolution. As much as today we talk about how industry has left the state and left the United States in many ways, this is really a salute to how people got it done back then.
Yes.
And everything that got us to a point where we were an industrial world, really.
Mm-hmm. It all comes down to how are we as a people, how we changed from this. So
Yeah.
that's ultimately what it is. And how do we leave our mark? How do we do something that shows that we've learned from this?
Yeah. And I would be remiss, I know the fans out there would want to ask this question. Once you get a good 40 winks, and this is wrapped up, and you attend the award ceremonies, you attend all the banquets, and your name,
Yeah.
and everybody's happy, what's next?
I don't know. Actually, I have a couple of ideas, but I'm going to hold off on all that.
Something shorter and smaller?
I'm not doing another series.
Hey.
That I know. I do have a feature-length documentary that I may revisit, but that depends on some factors there. And I'd like to return to narrative filmmaking with just something that is a complete 180-degree turn, something that I can do locally within a reasonable budget that's compelling, that I care about, that has all the right ingredients, good writing, good acting, all of it. So
Yeah.
I'll see what that brings.
So one last time, the website, I know there, folks, if you're interested in this, $5, $10, whatever you want to donate, contact Christian, maybe even donations in kind, because there's a lot that they need to make this film. Give them the website one more time.
So the website is firstmillvillage.com, but if people want to donate, if I can do that here, we have a GoFundMe page. So it's gofundme.com/Slatersville film.
Great.
So people can go there. But people can go there through the website too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming on.
Thanks very much.